What comes to mind when you think of skateboarding? It's often considered a sport for rebels, a way to let off steam on wheels. But with its risky kickflips and ollies, it can instill dread in parents, despite it fast becoming part of the sporting mainstream. It even became an Olympic event in 2020. In Taiwan, though, skate parks like this are a relatively rare sight, and that lack of resources means young talent here often don't see a future in the sport. In this episode of Gen Taiwan, we hear from the skateboarders looking to grind their way into the sporting spotlight.
Skateboarding's debut at the Tokyo Olympics in 2020 has taken the sport from the streets onto the world stage. In Taiwan, this has ignited a fervor in skateboarding.
因为滑板已经进入到奥运，所以更多的家长们会愿意想要让小朋友们去投入在这项才艺。
Skateboarding is now a competitive sport for the younger generation who are gunning to compete in the big league.
我的目标就是2028洛杉矶奥运。
But Taiwan is not quite ready for these young medal hopefuls.
台湾现在最大的困难在于，没有一个真正的训练场地，就是因为台湾变成说所有的滑板公园其实它是混合使用。
Vice hangs out with the skateboarding community in Taiwan to uncover the challenges they face making the leap onto the world stage.
每天我都练习滑板5-6个小时。我喜欢滑板的原因是因为速度感，你在空中飞的感觉，我觉得很好。
他5岁8个月9个月的时候，那时候有一个表哥从加拿大回来台湾度假，那就带了一块自己的滑板嘛，那就在我们的家里面前面的公园就在那边滑行。当时 Max 他就看到，哇，这个东西好特别哦，他想说我想要踩踩看，然后他就站上去滑。但就一般来说，大部分人第一次踩是很容易跌倒的，但他第一次就可以做简单的滑行。买了之后，在买的地方的滑板店有一个免费的教学，就是买滑板送30分钟的课程。那就从这个课程开始，他就开启了他的滑板之路。
9-year-old Max is now training professionally to compete in international competitions. But Taiwan is not ready yet for his global ambitions. The lack of suitable skate ramps led his father, Momo, to team up with 4 other parents. They self-funded their own space to help nurture future pro skaters like Max.
当时疫情爆发的时候，其实所有的公有的场地都是封闭的，但是滑板它又是一个非常需要透过肌肉记忆的一项运动。那我们如果中间都没有练习，其实前面的努力很有可能就白费，又要从头来过一次。可能前后大概就3个月的时间吧，就已经整个 ready 了。
Max started homeschooling 2 years ago at the age of 7, as training takes a toll.
眼角不要抬，
因为其实我自己也本身不是那么喜欢读书的人。读书这件事，我认为小时候你学，但是你长大了，你的头脑有更多的组织能力的时候，你再来学，搞不好它的效率会比小时候更好。所以我认为，如果以运动跟学科2件事情来发展，我会认为小时候先学运动是比较对的选择。我们现在比较近期的目标就是说，我们要锁定2028年的奥运的参赛资格，在积分上面拿到能够参与这个赛事，拿到这个门票。
To make it to the Olympic skateboarding finals, athletes need to accumulate points through World Skate sanctioned events. Only the top 40 men and women will be selected for the final competition. Athletes take part in 2 separate categories, street or park.
这里就是我的一个滑板场，一个小的碗池，然后还有一个酒吧。然后这边为什么会想要设定有这样的酒吧跟碗池呢？是因为碗池它可以很好的练习身体的很多的不同的协调性的应该说律动。然后酒吧呢，就是因为我想要结合很多的文化，好比说音乐啊，或是一些可能潮流，或是一些类似像这样子的同属性的东西，都可以在这里发生。
Taiwan skateboarding veteran Kyle Ke started skating 23 years ago at the age of 8. Today, he's an influencer on the scene, sponsored by major brands.
我觉得滑板很特别，就是在玩的时候，它会其实有一种也算是一个训练自己的心智啊，因为它比一般的运动的困难度相当于高，因为你刚开始滑，你要练到跳的这个阶段，你可能就要花可能每天或者是说好几个月在练习这个动作，你才可以把它做到很完美。滑板正式纳入里面的运动项目之后，滑板这个东西在台湾开始被很多人的认可，甚至到很多的品牌或是一些商业的公司，他们都觉得说，这个是一个很有潜力的一件事情，就是很有未来发展性。因为第一个，它在早期还没有进入到奥运的时候，滑板在于街头跟潮流或是一些时尚的品牌里面，它都已经是有一定的影响力了。20年来，我觉得最大的差别应该是，大概在这5年内吧，台湾开始有很多的人在从事做滑板教学这一块，因为滑板已经进入到奥运，所以更多的家长们会愿意想要让小朋友们去投入在这项才艺或者是运动也好，然后他们会更让小朋友去挑战看看，因为他们也很多人都知道说滑板有一定的危险性跟困难度，但是他们反而会更想要让小朋友来尝试滑板，因为至少他们不会在家里玩手机、看 iPad， 有些甚至说我就是想要让他们来跌倒，还问我说，他怎么没跌倒？1、2、3。
He's currently training 10-year-old Lin Tze, who hopes to make it to the national team. To achieve that, she needs to take part in local competitions to accumulate points to make the cut.
林芝在上一次的积分赛已经是拿到第4名，然后其实我会希望他是持续的在进步更多，而不是只是为了想要去得名次而设定安排一些路线。
我朋友的妈妈就是有先跟我妈，就是在网上找到滑板的那个体验课，然后是有去玩一下，然后就是刚开始站在滑板上面的时候就是不习惯，然后后面习惯的时候就是感觉站在上面很轻松，有一种很好玩的感觉。未来我想要成为职业滑板选手，然后可以进奥运。
才回来这，你才敢踏。
To increase his chances of making the cut, Max has engaged national team coach Kevin Chen.
你上来看，你现在前脚完全没有带板。
However, professional skateboard coaching is still at its infancy in Taiwan. A skateboarding coach can get a basic C-level certification in 3 days. Kevin feels the scene currently lacks experienced skateboarders due to a break in the development of the sport in the early 2000s.
在台湾有职业是我这一代，就大概30几岁左右的，算是第一代的职业选手。那到中我在下面就是比较没有那么多比较厉害的选手，不知道为什么是有一段时间，大概2006年到2010年，其实那一段时间台湾的滑板，应该说全世界的滑板都没落了，因为其实玩的东西很多，那时候网咖出来了，然后还有别的东西，资讯越来越发达，所以滑板慢慢的就很少人玩了。 我教 Max 大概2年左右，然后他是蛮耐操的啊，就是他的特质就是耐操。对，你看你又往旁边转了，所以你如果往旁边转，你会觉得，不然基本上小孩子因为滑板其实很累，而且挫折感是很大的，尤其是在练基础的东西是最硬的，但滑板就基础是最重要的，你没练，基本上会一直遇到瓶颈。那他其实他就是肯练，就也耐操，所以基础打得好之后，他就会很快就会起飞，就会有一个爆发期这样子。有没有带板？你刚才有没有带？啊
Kevin is hoping a much younger generation of skaters, like Max, will take the sport to the next level. However, the lack of competition-ready skate parks remain a problem.
大概是20年前，那个叫极限运动场。那现在因为亚奥运滑板其实都跟直排轮、脚踏车是分开的，所以比赛的场地是不一样的。那一个它是叫极限运动场，所以它也不是滑板场。所以现在台湾必须要盖的是亚奥运项目的街式的场地跟腕直的场地。
但即便我盖了到现在，你说这个场地现在有办法100%满足 Max 现在的训练需求吗？我的答案是否定的。所以我们又必须花很多的时间跟金钱把他送到国外，陪着他到国外去做训练。
这里是 Vans Park， 是我这次主要训练汉比赛的场地。
目前为止还是要靠家长自己努力赚钱啊，因为政府没有这方面的补助。很多人都觉得说哇，可以出国，好棒哦。我都说，你跟我出去一次，你就会知道，其实出国的压力是很大的，就是无时无刻你眼睛张开就在烧钱，那你又要去让这个钱花的有价值，所以你的心情上是放松不下来的。
目前国内的一些选手，可能只有部分比较优秀的可以拿得到厂商所提供的用具而已，大致上还没有办法像国际职业选手那样的优厚的一些条件。因为我们参加了2次的大比赛，发现场地对选手非常重要。那目前知名的选手，他们对于场地的熟悉度呢，也是需要一些挑战。那如果说我们必须要进军到国际赛的时候，场地设备对我们来讲是非常重要的。
Skateboarding's future in Taiwan remains to be seen. But for some chasing the dream, it's come at a huge personal cost.
我其实到现在啊，我练到现在，能不能成为顶尖的选手，已经不是我的第一个考量了。因为我发现，我们练到现在，他的苦闷啊，他的辛苦啊，如果现在让我选，我只希望他当一个全世界最快乐的人。我说不上来，连我自己在旁边看我都觉得好苦，但是不得不，这真的是一个不得不的选择。所以你问我只希望他能够在这方面不用成为顶尖，但他可以成为你人生自豪的一部分。
我对他的可能，好比说以奥运这一块来讲，我自己其实也知道说我们跟国外的差距还真的是很大，但至少我觉得可以让现在的小朋友们多吸收正确的知识，他以后的下1代、2代、3代才有机会真的是可以参加到奥运。
To discuss that episode and the difficulties facing skaters and other non-mainstream sports people in Taiwan, we're joined by our 3 guests. We have Yohei Ching, a skateboarder of 14 years who's also coaching now. We have Jane Zhou. Jane is a 23-year-old skateboarder and the author of several articles about Taiwan's skateboarding scene. And finally, we have Perry Moon, who's a Taiwanese professional snowboarder. We'll get to that in a second. First of all, to Jane and Yohei, I want to ask, how did you get into skateboarding? Because it's not that visible a sport across Asia, is it?
Yeah, I started skateboarding when I was about 16, 17 years old. My sister was studying in the United States. He asked me like do you want a gift before I came back to Taiwan? And it's like, oh yeah, I want a skateboard. I don't know how that come from, but in my mind, it's like, I want a skateboard. He just brought one back and that's how I start. And when I start doing it, just until today, yeah.
And for me, I started skateboarding when I was 18 years old. And at first I saw some skaters skate on the street. And I think looks really cool and like I want to be like them. So I tried to skate.
I started skateboarding first in Taiwan in high school. I would say like 15, 16 years old. And I had the chance to move to South America, to Chile, when I was 17. And I started around 18 years old living in South America. Yeah.
Obviously in Taiwan, skateboarding isn't necessarily the most mainstream sport. So can you all talk a little bit about the difficulties you faced in finding places, good places to be able to practice, to be able to meet other skaters and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so the skate park currently that built by the government in Taiwan, honestly, there's a lot of shortcomings in there. Yeah, most of them are not really meet the international standard, I'll say. Yeah, and some of them is not even close to what skater need. Yeah, but
what is it about them that doesn't quite fit the bill?
Yeah, like in a skate park, maybe the material they try to build the park, the obstacle, the ramps is not really the proper one. The ground might be. I've even seen like soft ground.
What's the soft material? I'm curious. Is it like
I think it's PU. It's
custard or something?
It's superwear.
Okay.
To protect the kid
Right.
to fall down.
Okay.
Yeah, to get hurt from that. Yeah, but it's not for. I mean, you can't skate in a soft ground with skateboard, right? Yeah. So a lot of facilities is kind of odd. Yeah. And of course, we try to in skate culture. We will skate on the street a lot.
Jane, I read your article about kind of getting these facilities and these good facilities from the government. Some of the things that Yohei was just talking about is something you've encountered as well, with neighbors being angry about the noise and that kind of thing, but also the difficulties you found in getting that facility up and running. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I also agree with him. Like, some skater will discuss about the skate parks in Taiwan. Although this year there are more and more skate parks were built, but still, like, we think some of the skate park looks very weird for us, like the material or something. And I also know about that some of the extreme sport park, like they mix like different extreme sports together. For example, they mix skateboard, BMX, and roller skating together. But I think these sports kind of different. Like, some movement of them is quite different, so it's hard to just mix them. I think it's because the government doesn't focus on this sport. Like they think like maybe the main sports like basketball, badminton, or maybe volleyball. But for skateboard, they think they don't know how skateboard can be played, and like they cannot. Like if they're found a place, like skaters ask for the government, like, can it become a skate park or not? But the government thinks like, oh, it can become a more beneficial place, like build a parking place or something. It can earn money, but not skate park.
So we've spoken about some of the difficulties in getting kind of skateboarding facilities.
Right.
Obviously, snowboarding is a whole different question in Taiwan. Right. Tell us about some of the work you're involved in spreading the word, as it were, about snowboarding in Taiwan.
We're pretty close to a lot of countries that had snow. So back in the days, you go to Japan, Korea, you fly to the US and Europe. So there are a certain group, not very big, of like snowboarders and skiers in Taiwan already, but nobody could get to a higher level because we don't have any facilities. It's kind of like in skateboarding. You don't have a place to train, you can't get better. So yeah, like about a year and a half ago, we started our own project, building one in Taiwan as well. We have a facility, a small one, but we have some place to train.
How did your parents react when you started skateboarding? Were they reluctant to let you do it? Did they have a negative perception of it at all? Was there any kind of pushback at all? Or were they kind of really keen for you to do it?
Well, my parents definitely don't agree when I was skating. I have to hide my skateboard every time before I go back to my home.
Why?
Yeah, it's just the thing. It was the older time, you know, the Asia culture. Yeah, it's more like they couldn't understand the image of skater is like drinking.
Yeah,
a bad kid. Like what bad kid is doing. But now it's different. Now it's changed. Like after the Olympic have included the skateboard competition, the whole thing changed. Now my parents, they're like, wow, we're glad you skate before. And now I can tell them a story. I actually hide my skateboard every time I go home.
Jane, what about your parents? Were there any concerns there?
For me, like when I was skate at the first 1 or 2 years, I get injured quite a lot. So like my mom's like see like I always get injured and she wants me like stop me to do skateboarding. And she thinks like skateboard is kind of like a male sport, like no any girls do that, and she thinks that is not good for me. At the beginning when I was start to learn how to skate, like I don't know there are any other girl skaters like me, like who want to learn to skate. And I feel like quite lonely because like there's no one support with me, no one skate with me. And so at first I just learn how to skate by myself. And sometimes for me it's kind of difficult to get into the boys skater communities because it's a little bit different for me.
How did you overcome? Did you eventually get into the groups? What did you have to do to kind of be recognized and acknowledged by your male peers?
Actually, if you ask them how to skate or how to learn any tricks, they will like be very friendly. Like they will want to teach you, but sometimes you need to like more focus on yourself. Like you need to practice a lot and think about how can I do this trick or not.
You've already mentioned a little bit about how important skateboarding entering the Olympics was for changing people's perceptions. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how important you think that moment was for the sport entering the Olympics and how it's changed, you know, everyday people's perceptions of the sport.
Right. Yeah. So after the, you know, skateboarding in competition is in the Olympic, I believe it changed a lot of people's mind in Taiwan. The parent will start letting the kid do it, yeah, because more people notice it, and when they see the news, they will dig into more, and the whole perspective of skateboarding start changing. It's more healthy.
I think after skateboard becomes an Olympic sport, like more and more people start to play skateboard, especially the young generation. Like their parents want them to learn how to skate. And I think the image of skateboard is like becomes more positive way.
I actually think before the insertion to the Olympics, people didn't consider skateboarding as a sport. They consider it as a hobby, as something fun to do, but not as a sport where you put in your energy and practice and you get points, you can compete, you can represent a country. Before the Olympics, it wasn't really in their mind. And because our proximity to Japan as well, because the first time was in Tokyo Olympics, and Japan happened to win like most of the medals, and all the winners are super young as well. And people are like, wow, so like you could be an Olympic athlete at age 13 and get a gold medal.
I was going to say, the youngest one was about that age,
it's
right?
13, Sakura.
It's a girl.
Yeah, it's a girl, yeah. And then it opens up a huge, I would say, like a space to dream, you know, the potential that maybe my kids one day could become like that too. Yeah.
So now we have skateboarding has entered the Olympics. It's now considered a relatively more mainstream sport, as it were. But what do you think needs to happen to keep it there?
There's a lot of creative stuff and related to skateboarding, music, art and stuff. So competition is part of it, is part of the thing. Yeah, and so I feel like to maintain this this culture and the interest of people who start skateboarding, the culture has to come in too. Yeah, because that's the thing that lasts forever. You know, competition is not forever.
I do think the lifestyle speaks for itself. I think like once you get yourself on the board, you learn how to push, you start making those first turns, it stays, you know, it stays. So yeah, I think the more people see it on TV, like it became a mainstream, like Olympic definitely helps. Just to get more people involved and then word of mouth, like it will spread by itself. I think that the lifestyle speaks to itself.
Well, thank you so much to our guests for joining us and sharing your insight into this. And thank you to our audience for joining us. We'll see you for the next episode of Gen Taiwan, where we'll dive into another topic with a great set of panelists. We'll see you next time.